This is a Pele Media podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in again today to Goonies Minute. Goonies Minute is the show where we explore the classic 1985 film Goonies minute by minute. I'm Brady.
And this is Chris.
And today we're coming at you with minute number 16. Chris, how you doing?
Doing great. Ready to get into this minute, ready to get into this crazy stuff that's about to happen.
I know. This might be the last show that we record with this chair that keeps breaking. And I'm sitting in it today. I know last time you busted and fell out.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result. I think that's what the definition is.
I don't know, but it makes sense. It applies for sure.
Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
That's what
I tell you what, I expect it not to break on this episode.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I tell you what, until then, you ready to get into the minute?
Let's get into the minute.
In the previous minute, we saw Mikey find a framed map with no way to get it out of the frame. At minute 16, Mikey calls for Chunk to come hold the frame. He counts down from 5, knowing exactly when Chunk will drop the frame and break the glass. At 16 minutes and 18 seconds, Mikey and Chunk pick up the frame and shake off the glass and remove the map. Chunk notices the year 1632, and Mikey recognizes the coastline as being that of Astoria. At 16 minutes and 35 seconds, Bran points to the tattered and bloodied map and asks what is written in Spanish. Mouth translates the Spanish to, "Ye intruders beware, crushing death and grief soaked with blood of the trespassing thief." At 56 seconds, Bran claims that the map and the legend are old news, and that several people of past generations have unsuccessfully tried following the map. Mikey isn't so sure. And thus ends minute 16 of the Goonies.
All right, so in this minute, we start off with something really funny, and that's Mikey's countdown. He calls Chunk over knowing that he needs the frame broken. He needs this glass broken so he can get the map out. But he knows that he can't do it. He can't be the one to do it, so he's just going to put it in Chunk's hand, and he knows that Chunk is going to break the thing.
And Mike or Chunk is so ADD. When he comes over there, all he's talking about is that
the plasma globe.
Yeah, the plasma globe. So like he's not focused. So he knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's even you can literally set your watch by it. He counts down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and right as he hits 1, Chunk just smashes it all over the ground.
But you know what's interesting? When that glass breaks, there's not a crazy reaction like when the statue breaks. If you go back and look, they're not freaking out. For whatever reason, they're not freaking out. And that's so weird to me because it seemed like the initial, there might been one, what are you guys doing? But nobody's freaking out. About it.
And I mean
and they instantly get into looking at the map. What do you have? It's treasure map. And I think that's cool.
It's very cool. The statue thing was Mrs. Walsh's favorite thing, and her favorite piece on the statue.
But this is the dad stuff. You would think that Mikey would freak out, but I think remember Mikey had the realization.
That's right.
When he looked at when he saw his reflection.
He's got more stuff on his mind.
Now we're getting serious. So hey, this desperate times. No time to worry about a broken frame of a picture.
That's right.
Broken glass of a picture.
And so Mikey's plan just continues to move. And so it's funny that when he mentions the date, 1632, and Mouth walks over and says, what is that?
Pole position.
Yeah, top score in pole position.
I used to play that in the arcades, and I also had it in the Atari 2600.
Yeah, it went to Atari.
Yeah.
After the arcade. And I think it was a very highly successful arcade
I'd
game.
rather Spy Hunter.
Yeah.
But pole position was cool.
Pole position was cool. So they get Mouth to translate what's written on the map, which is in Spanish. And when he starts doing it, he's being silly. And
you hear the music again.
Yeah, the music comes back in. And then he's using his silly,
I think it's a piratey. It's a medieval.
It's a pirate. Yeah, exactly.
Medieval accent.
That's
whatever
right.
that is.
Because it's in Spanish. Why the hell would it be British?
Yeah.
So Mouth starts changing his accent. And as the music comes back in, and you see that even he, the silly, the funny guy in the group, who can't take anything seriously, is now taking it seriously.
Right.
And hearing all this gruesome stuff on a whole new level. And if this is all real, and this stuff really is out there, all of this threat could be there as well. Still be there. Booby traps.
That's right. And the map itself, I can't remember if it was the guy that had the props. I have it in the original notes from our first episode. But the map, they thought it looked too new. Mm-hmm. So they kind of dirtied it up, but they wanted to put some blood on it. and they were out of the fake blood. And either one of the prop directors or whatever, I can't remember the position of the person, but he actually cut his own finger, and that's real blood on that
Really?
map. Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, well, but no, that's actually really blood on there.
That's incredible. That's a piece of like movie memorabilia I would love to know what happened to.
Yeah, I don't know who
Absolutely.
has that.
Yeah.
Bet you that would sell for some money on eBay, huh?
Seriously. From a like technical standpoint, I really admire the way the scene is shot and the lighting specifically, and the way that it's hitting all of the different elements in the room, like whatever you call the woman carving that's on the front of a ship. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like I don't even know.
Yes, but I don't know. What
but you don't know the name.
Yeah.
There's one of those, and it's kind of backed up to a ship's wheel. And some other elements around the room, like there's the carved cigar Indian, and there's the knight armor over in the background.
The thought that's put into
Yes.
it, you just know that every little one of those things, there's a reason, there was a purpose behind it. I just don't believe any of it was just thrown in there just for the hell of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's another thing we talked about last week with Crystal was, just the offshoot movies you could make here, or piece of fan fiction literature or something like that, which I'm sure there's tons of out there, about all of the different things and reasons that these things are up here. And like we talked about yesterday, Mikey explains that all of this was part of a retrospective, history of Astoria show, and his dad kept all the props. How much of that was him just keeping the props and needing to store them somewhere other than the museum, and then him having them up there because of his affinity for pirates? What does that man get out of going up there in his attic and just being in his element and being around all this stuff?
Or he's just keeping it there because one day he's going to go try to find that treasure again.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, here we go. He's got, and we'll get there in a few minutes, he's got the Chester Copperpot front page framed.
Right.
There's no way Mr. Walsh isn't already hip to this whole One-Eyed Willie thing. But, okay, to that end, and the idea that Mr. Walsh, was probably on Mikey's level back in the day, Brand says everybody and their grandfather went looking for this. And I think that's where the last minute ended with that dialogue.
Yeah, that's right. There's something about the parents.
So the history and the knowledge of One-Eye Willie is already out there. And these other kids, aside from Mikey, aren't really familiar with it. But if it's already been out there, people have already gone looking for it, Chester Copperpot being one. And I'm sure Mikey's dad at some point had a plan to do it.
Right,
but the
never got started.
Adulthood, kicked in and couldn't do it. It's like you said, this film is empowering to kids, and it's like the only people who could solve this whole mystery and carry this whole thing through successfully would be kids,
or just somebody, that doesn't have necessarily a 40 or 50 hours a week job.
That too,
So I mean, you could have the passionate person that's, just an explorer, but yeah, it has to have a kid at heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Because a lot of people look at this treasure and say it's not real. Mm-hmm. It's got to be fake.
Like Brand
almost
is doing.
Right, and it's got to be someone that's willing to have a mind that you can an open mind.
Exactly, and a sort of zeal for all of this, and that's what we see in the next minute when Mikey is just going off on a tangent about the history of One-Eyed Willie, and it's like watching a kid just so excited, talking about something they're obsessed with. That's the only kind of person who could do this. I think it's ironic that Sean Astin, who's just such a great performance in this, went on to be one of the starring roles in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which, he was Sam the Hobbit, and you could arguably say that movie is Sam's adventure, more so than Frodo's. And so I just think it's funny that the same actor is playing a very similar character twice.
Which in that being, that maybe that could have led him to that role.
Very well. Could have. That could have been what Peter Jackson saw in him.
Or it could have made him want to do it.
Either
way.
Yeah, either way. But I tell you what, that is in the next minute. That'll be tomorrow.
We'll be getting there in the next minute.
That's true. So you ready to get out of here for right now?
Let's do it. Let's get out of here.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we're here to remind you that Goonies
never say die.
Never say die. Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram @GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at patreon.com/Pele Media. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Pele Media and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/Pele Media.